Okay, so today we're diving into something pretty intense, right? The story of Abraham and Isaac, Genesis chapter 22.
Yeah, it's one of those stories that, you hear about a lot growing up, maybe, but when you really dig into it,
Yeah.
it's a lot.
Yeah. And we're going off of this analysis we've got, right? Trying to figure out like what are the universal lessons, Not just for like people who are super religious, but for everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, what can we take from this, this ancient story and apply it to our lives today? And, I mean, the basic setup is God tells Abraham to sacrifice his son Isaac.
Yeah, like as a test.
Right, like a huge, huge test of faith.
So the analysis really dives into this idea of like total trust. Like Abraham is willing to go through with it even though it doesn't make sense.
Right. And I think that's what makes it so powerful, right? Because
Yeah.
it's like, what are we willing to let go of? What are those things, those Isaacs in our own lives?
Yeah, totally. Could be a dream job, a relationship, something you've been working towards for so long.
And you're asked to just surrender it, to trust that something bigger is at play.
It's tough to even imagine, but the thing is, right, the story doesn't just stop at the test. There's also this element of provision.
Right, right. Like with the ram appearing at the last minute.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, even when things seem impossible, even when you're being asked to make this ultimate sacrifice, there's this idea that a solution might come from somewhere you don't even expect.
And sometimes, we might miss those solutions if we're not open to them, if we're so focused on the loss.
So it's not just about blind faith, but also about trusting that something good can come out of even the most difficult situations.
Yeah, exactly. And, the analysis also points out that Abraham's obedience, like his willingness to go through with it, actually led to even more blessings. Like God reaffirmed his promises to Abraham because of his faith.
So there's a reward for that obedience.
Yeah, it's like when you follow what you believe is right, even when it's hard, sometimes amazing things can happen.
It's like an investment almost, putting in the hard work and the faith and then reaping the benefits down the line.
Exactly. And, this whole thing with the sacrifice, it brings up this other point about worship. Like, what does it really mean to worship something?
Yeah, because this was like the ultimate act of worship for Abraham.
Right. And the analysis, it emphasizes that real worship isn't just about going through the motions. It's not just rituals. It's about surrendering what's most precious to you, your time, your resources, your desires.
So it's more internal than external, I guess.
Yeah. And that kind of leads into this other key moment, which is when God stops the sacrifice.
Right, right. Like at the very last second.
And this is huge because it shows a difference between, this idea of God and maybe some of the other gods or practices from that time.
Like those pagan rituals and stuff.
Exactly. God isn't looking for a blood sacrifice. It's not about that. It's about the inner devotion. It's about the willingness to surrender.
So like the intention matters more than the action itself.
Yeah. And what's really interesting is how this whole story, with Abraham and Isaac, it kind of foreshadows a bigger idea in Christianity.
I mean with Jesus.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The analysis actually points out the parallel, like Isaac carrying the wood for the sacrifice.
Oh, wow. Like Jesus carrying the cross.
Exactly. It's a powerful image, right? And it shows how deeply this idea of sacrifice is woven into the story of faith.
So after going through all of this, right, like what's the takeaway for someone listening? What can they actually do with this story in their own life?
Well, it's like we were saying before. It's about asking yourself, what are those things you're clinging to so tightly? What are your Isaacs?
Maybe it's a belief, a relationship, a goal.
And how can you start to cultivate that trust? That things might work out in a way you don't expect.
And to be open to those unexpected solutions, even when it seems like you're being asked to give up everything.
Yeah. And to remember that true surrender, true devotion, it comes from the heart. It's not just about outward actions.
So think about that. What needs to shift inside you to allow for something new to happen?
Because sometimes letting go can actually be the biggest act of faith.